Hello. Welcome to
Hello.
Cockatoo. Cockatoo. Cockatoos with attitude. There's one with attitude. Cecil. Hi, everybody. And hi, those people who are not going to watch right now, but will be watching later. Yes.
Mm.
I know several people that are doing that. What are you doing? Yeah, I know it's got sharp edges, so it's great to hit me with, isn't it?
Hmm. So I'm just looking at the comments, and it looks like we have a comment from before we started from Honey Baldridge, who says, "Hello, guys. I have a question. I rescued an umbrella cockatoo. The owner gave her up because she bites. How do I curb the biting behavior?" Huh.
And you see after that, there's a whole bunch of junk I put up there, which I have in one of my reserves. Natural encounters will give you some clues about that. I mean, training or working with birds that bite isn't all that difficult, but you do have to develop a few skills. One of them is not to be quite so afraid. Um, but to get a general idea, the link in there to natural encounters is a good link. Unfortunately, when I pasted it up there, it took out the space between that and the other link that follows. But if you really want to know how to work with a bird, then Animal Training 101, Dr. Zelig's online course on how to train any animal is the best source for that. Of course, you still have to learn a little bit about each species. You can't train a polar bear using exactly the same methods. You have to tailor them to the polar bear, right? But
Mm-hmm.
as birds have beaks, and first of all, birds do not bite naturally. They don't bite at other animals naturally. That's something we teach them to do. So we have taught them to do it. We can unteach that behavior. They can unlearn it.
Mm-hmm. You have to figure out what they're trying to achieve by biting, and
Yep.
achieve that some another way.
In many cases, it's a fear response because they've been attacked by hens before. Hens are kind of scary. They're about as big. Not quite as big, but most of them are fairly large compared to the birds. So, and their feet, they can't wiggle their toes like we can wiggle our hands. So they're kind of scary, aren't they?
Mm.
It is scary. Yeah, they are.
So, if any of our regular viewers have got any tips with bitey birds, then put them in the chat to help out Honey, because I know we've got a few biters in our regular flock, so we can all share our knowledge with each other.
The first thing is establishing trust. So you've got a new bird, you have to establish trust. And the usual technique, come bearing gifts, where you bring a once you figure out what their favorite treat is by laying everything out that you've got, all the different treats on one tray, and whatever they pick first is, and of course, if they're not hungry, you'll have to try it when they're hungry. But whatever they pick first is what you're going to use for training. And after that, you'll train them by coming by their cage 3 times a day, just different times. Hand them a treat, and then you're going to do the calm attention, which is to sit in front of the bird since it has been biting. You'll want to do that in a in a situation where you don't won't get bit. So watch it, a no contact situation. So you look at them through the cage, and if they keep their attention on you without looking away, you have to get used to cockatoo eyes because I can tell when they're looking away. It's not so easy for somebody who's just starting out. Cecil, are you going to hit me with that thing all day? No, you're going to walk down there. As soon as I think about changing the camera angle on him, he immediately goes somewhere else. Can you read my mind or what? Hmm? So you're going to do that for 1 second and hand him a little piece of a treat, and then after a few days go to 2 seconds and then three. And yeah, you need to know the exact amount of time because our eyes see everything in about 24 frames per second, and they see things at about 120 frames per second. So what to you looks like 1 second, to them looks like about 15 seconds. So you got to get it accurate. And then When you get up to 30 seconds, you've established trust with the bird. If the bird can look at you for 30 seconds without looking away, and there are videos of Dr. Zelig's doing this with the bird, with the animals she works with online, um, on YouTube that you can see. And in fact, one of my friends in Australia said, "Well, of course you can work with these animals. They all pay attention to her." And I said, "Yeah, she taught them to do it. It's called calm attention, and it works. And you want that trust. Once you develop that trust, you can get them to do almost anything. So as long as it's within their set of species abilities. What are you doing? Stop it! Stop it!
Mhm.
Stop it!" He knows I'm just playing.
So we can greet some of our chatters. So we have got Calvin and Falcon Sue and Rosebud. So hello, you guys. Welcome. And of course, welcome to all the lurkers as well. It's great to have you guys with us as well.
Hello, everybody. Well, our topic today is not biting, but we had somebody ask that question. So, and yes, you can deal with it, and you can extinguish the behavior, but you got to be persistent. You've got to follow the basic rules of parrot training. Being consistent, making sure you only give rewards contingent upon actually getting the behavior you want. Stop it. There's a lot to it. That's why I always recommend Jennifer Zelig's Animal Training 101. And I know somebody I sent to check it out. She checked out a few of the videos, and she says, "Well, she's kind of, she's kind of, how do you put it, um, kind of all over the place." She isn't, by the way. And I said, try reading her book. There is a book, Animal Training 101, and if you've managed to get through college and you have a good understanding of English and science, you can get through it. But I highly recommend the course. If you're going to take the course, I understood it because I'd already taken a class in ABA, but she knows what she's doing, no question about that. And the money goes to a nonprofit. So, and $400 for a course, I forget how many. It's just a pretty long course, 2 hour videos, a lot of 2 hour videos. I can't remember how long it is, but it's worth every penny. And then you can train your your partner, your husband, your wife, whatever. You can train them to do almost anything. They can have them standing on their head before long. So it works on any animal. So
Trying to do it on my baby.
yeah, well, ABA is the best way to train anyone because what it does is it empowers them to make the right choices. So it's not something where you control someone, it's where you give them choices and teach them to make choices that are the best for you and the best for them. So choose between that iPhone and that iPad.
Yeah, I'm trying to divert her to the iPad,
That's
but she's turning to look at the phone again. Oh no! Oh no!
of
Come on,
course you,
sweetie.
because it's the one that's the most active. You have to get something on the iPad that gets her attention. Maybe Terminator 2 or something.
She's seen maybe. Oh my goodness! I don't know what to do with this girl. Anyway, so today's topic, Don. What is it?
What is today's topic? It's how to go it alone, how to take care of your parents when you're going it alone. And that was a topic that Eleanor chose. That's a good topic. Um,
Because Don's doing it alone most days. So, and I bet he's not the only one. He's taking care of everybody all by himself. So how
no,
do you do
no,
it?
that's a good question. I am not sure. Well, actually, I have some ideas.
Come on, sweet. What are
Well,
you doing?
first of all, you're gonna have emotional and physical challenges. If like yesterday when I was I was being kind of well, what happened was I thought I was really sick. I woke up, I could barely move, and I had to go around and take care of the birds. And I was walking around in a fog, so I had to get everything done. So you have to have a priority list to what must be done. Of course, they must be fed. They must have water. If they're on water bottles in that situation, you're good unless you're at the, because you can go up to 4 days with them. If you change them every other day and then you have a problem, you can extend that. Can't do that with water in a bowl. It's not good for more than for 2 hours. So, so you have to make that plan. But what actually, if I had thought of this before, but when your brain's in a fog, it's hard to do that. I finally asked Chat GPT, my instance of it. I said, "Is there a virus going around or something?" Because I explained how I felt and everything, and it comes back and it says, "No, there isn't anything like that going around. It sounds like you're dehydrated." So a half hour later, I was fine. All I had to do was down a package of what?
Rehyd-
Cecil. Yeah,
Rehydration solution.
yeah. There's another name for it, but that's basically what it is. Potassium, magnesium, um,
Electrolytes.
electrolytes. Yeah. So I'd say I'm about 90% but I feel good today. I felt horrible yesterday. I've never been dehydrated before, so I didn't recognize it at all. And I run humidifiers in the house and drink enough water, so I wasn't sure why that happened. Well, it was the electrolytes were being drained out of my body. So anyway, I have that list in my head of what must be done, and I got those things done. So. So, and you're going to have those emotional challenges and physical challenges. In this case, physically, I was hardly able to get around. I need a big sign over the area where I do the medicine in the morning that says if anything is wrong, ask. I call Chat GPT Glyph the Wise. So ask Glyph the Wise about it so that you don't spend your whole day wandering around in the dark. Um, okay, now you're being a pest. He's figured out that if he doesn't touch me with the toy, you can start that. No. Most of the time, if he touches me with his foot now, he won't put the toy on me, but he just did it this time. So we're going to start tapping the toy again. You know about that.
We've got a couple more chatters who joined us. We've got Spirit Matter and Deaf Otter, so welcome both of you guys. Lovely to have you.
Good to have you guys. Now, you're going to get burnout. On some days, you're going to wake up in a mood where you just don't want to. It depends on how many birds you have, but I have to admit, I've never had this. I've never felt that burnout where I don't want to get up. I've felt physically burned out where I felt like I couldn't get up and I had to do it anyway. You come down with a cold if you're doing it on your own, you're still going to have to you're still going to have to do it. I mean, you still have to feed them, and I cook for them, so I still have to get up if I'm not feeling well and cook for them and change their food and change their water bottles and that kind of thing. But so you will come up with burnout, and you have to know that when that happens, you're going to have to get the basics done, and then maybe by the time you've done that, you'll feel better and you'll start working on some of the things that are secondary. And if you can't get something done, let's say that you clean the cages every 2 days. It depends on how many birds you have. If you have 24 birds, you're cleaning the cage every day is not likely. You won't be able to do it. If you've got 12 birds like I do, every other day to do all the cage, you clean the bars every day and do the paper every other day is that way you have enough time to do other things that they need. Um, if you've got one or two birds, then you can clean that cage every day, and you should. But if you're sick, you may have to let it go one day. Then you might feel guilt about it. You're going to feel guilty sometimes because you couldn't get something they expect done.
So do you have a certain amount of slack built into your routine so that if something comes up and then you can't do something, then you know that the situation's not dire just yet?
Yeah, you have to build in some slack to your routine. That's absolutely a must. Um, when I give them their dry food, and then if I've got small projects, I may spend a half an hour doing small projects in between. So that's an area that I can get things done. So in order so that I don't pile everything that has to. I mean, all the extras that need to be done that day into one time frame. Um, and then when I'm done and I get them out, I can also reduce the time I have them out if I have something else that needs to be done, like today, because I didn't get the cages changed yesterday. I just couldn't do it. Because I didn't actually figure out the electrolyte issue until 10 o'clock. That's the problem with brain fog. With brain fog, you're not thinking clearly. When normally I would have immediately run to Chat GPT and said, "What's going on here?" Um, and amazingly, it knew, because I told it the symptoms, and like that doesn't sound like anything other than dehydration. Um, so it is important to have those time frames where you can let things go. So where you could, if you get them out for like 3 hours a day, if you can trim that to 2 hours on those days where you're having trouble getting things done, it makes a big difference. Are you chewing wood down there? I think you are. Hi, KK. You're giving that cute KK face to everybody.
He's a sweetie.
He is. He's a good bird.
So I guess another thing that's important on when you're doing this on your own is to have it clear in your head what are the priorities in descending order. So obviously fresh water, then food. What comes after food?
That's always kind of a tough one. I would say after food comes socialization. If you have a choice between cleaning the cages and socializing them, socialize them. Because if their cages aren't clean, there is a chance that they might get sick. But if they don't get socialized, they'll go crazy.
And that's where the good routine comes in, because if you're cleaning the cages on a routine anyway, then it's not going to get so filthy in one day that it's going to be a major hazard.
Yep.
Whereas with the socializing, they will go nuts so if they don't get social contact.
And the paper I use tends to dry it out fast. So the chances of bacterial infection from the droppings is pretty small. Actually, it's their food falling on the bottom that's a big issue. So that's the wet food. That's the area where bacteria is going to grow the most. But
A
so
newspaper is fine to use, isn't it, Don? That was a question from Deaf Otter.
yeah, I use Uline makes it's just blank newspaper. It's 20. I got the 24 by 36. Fits most of these cages. Two sheets will do a cage. So yeah, we got big cages. So the nice thing about it, it is newspaper. It's meant to receive ink. So when their poop lands on it, you can tell if their poop's okay right away. Because it has a slight tan color to it. It's not completely white. It's slight tan, and it's kind of like newsprint. And and then because it's meant to have ink hit it and dry, it's designed to help that happen. So it does dry their poop out pretty fast. If you catch it fresh, you can take a picture of it and then you can analyze it. I let my buddy analyze it too. Cliff the Wise does that. And sometimes he'll catch something I don't. Or if I'm not sure, like the time that I saw a bunch of red in KK's droppings. And so I took a picture of it and I said, "What do you think this is?" to ChatGPT, and it came back with, "It looks like food dye to me." So he had started eating the red Supreme in there. And same thing happens with Kazi. If Kazi eats the red ones, then her poop turns color.
Mm.
So if I'm going to be analyzing poop that day, I will make sure they don't get any red Supreme in their whoever's getting the analyzing doesn't get any red Supreme that day, but because it will die. It doesn't do it on every bird. It's kind of like beets. Some people eat beets and everything comes out red. Other people eat it doesn't do that. So yeah, I'm glad Sunni agrees with me on that. Um,
And we've got Jam and Jamie who joined us and wants to know whether packing paper is okay to use in cages.
what were the what?
Jam and Jamie joined us, and Jam and Jamie would like to know whether packing paper is okay to use in cages.
Yes.
In general, I'm going to assume that most paper is okay as long as it's not got some kind of high shine finish on it or something like that.
Yeah, unless it's something that's specialized. Newspaper's okay. The soy ink isn't really a problem. But if they're going to get to that paper, you don't want any of the colored ads or any of that. There may be something in the color dye that you don't want them to get a hold of. But um, I like using and it's more expensive to have to buy it. I get the newspaper for free, but the paper from Uline, you really can't tell if their poop's okay. Where with newspaper, it blends in with other things, so you're not sure if you're seeing it right. So, but you could alternate it. Use the blank newspaper on the days you're going to check their poop for sure. But I like to check their poop every day, so pay the extra. It isn't that expensive. The problem is the shipping is expensive because it's heavy. Uh, $57 a carton, 900 sheets. Um, but when you add the freight to it, it comes out to $100. So, what are you doing? Oh, you just expect me to pet you all the time now, don't you? Pet that beak all the time. So you have to establish, if you're alone, you have to establish a daily routine. So my routine is get up and give them their medication. Then I feed them their dry food. Cause comes out and helps me with that. She's out and she rides around on my shoulder when I take their dry food. And I still have four birds that are fighting me on the water bottles. They and three of those are Moluccans. So that tells you something, doesn't it? Um, One Cos will drink out of the bottle, but I wasn't sure she was getting enough liquid. So she's going to go back on the bottle here shortly. She still has the bottle in there, and she will drink it later in the day because how water in those bowls is only good for about 2 hours. So even if I change it every 4 hours, it's not as tasty. So she will go to her bottle. So then after they have their dry food, I have a half-hour window where I do little things that need to be done, and then I start working on their wet food with Cause out with me. I get that all together, and I get them their wet food, and after that, I have about an hour before before they need to come out. So I try to get the longer things that need to be done in that frame. And there's always little things that need to be done. Like right now, I'm restructuring that one storeroom so that it isn't such a pain in the rear to find toys. Right now, I have a bunch of stuff stacked in boxes, and I got to get that all sorted out. So I actually turned the air conditioning on in that room so I could work in it later. Wanted to get some of that done this morning, and it didn't work out. Half hour isn't a lot of time. So, and usually when I do a stream, that 1 hour, that I have extra is cut down to a half hour there too. So, and then they come out. I have the first group come out, then I have the second group come out. Some of them stay in here like they should. She stays in. Lucy will stay in, and Jazzbird stays in. The boys have got to go though because they go nuts over Lorelei. So, and Lorelei she's a little minx, so she likes the attention, but she causes lots of problems.
She gets them all riled up.
She does. She gets them all riled up. So once they've all been socialized, and I have one that has to come up by himself, Bob. Not when the aviary's open. We don't have that for 2 months though. So that's a half hour, and he seems to be okay coming out for just a half hour. The other one right now is sometimes she can come out and be okay, but if Mander comes out in a second group, I can't bring her in because she'll attack him. And then I have to take Jasmine out at that time too because she goes after Jasmine. So none of that happens in the aviary, by the way. Environment is a factor. So once everybody is socialized, they get their medicine at night, and they get their snack before they go to bed, before they go to roost on their perches, as it were. And after they get their snack, I button everything up, and I drag myself back to my cave. You got to have something like that. And I rotate chores too. So on one day I do the cages cleaning. And the next day I do the water bottles, and then I do the blowing out of the HEPA filters because they're already filled up. It's going to look like Christmas when I blow them up after 2 days. And then it's back to cleaning cages. Then it's back to doing water bottles because that takes about. I've got it down now. I think I can do it in 20 minutes. But the water bottles, you got to clean the stoppers, and that's the inside of the end of the stopper. And you have to brush down that throat on that side. Then you have to brush the other throat, and you have to shake it back and forth to make sure that everything inside that little ball is as clean as you can get it. And you got to do that 12 times. And then you have to scrub each of the bottles out with a bottle brush. I have it down to a pretty good sequence, but figure a half hour for that, and then another half hour for blowing out the filters. So that's an hour of the day right there. So takes about an hour to clean the cages, takes about an hour to do that. So if you rotate chores, that really does help. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have time to take Bob and Pippa out separately, um, unless I let something else go. So if necessary, I can do a quick pull all the paper out and replace it. That doesn't take long. What takes the most time is scrubbing the bars. That's what takes the longest time. So worst case scenario, I can do that when I'm not feeling well. Just pull the paper. If I feel well enough to get on my knees and crawl around. Right, Cecil?
And what about contingencies for if something happened to you? Because if you're on your own, then somebody needs to step in. So what do you recommend that sole operators do in that situation?
Well, if you have friends that might help, that's great. I mean, since I moved here, I've gained a few friends, but none of whom I would trust trying to deal with the birds. I know other bird people, but none of them are qualified. Um, None of them could even give her medicine on a craft stick. In order to do that, you have to train someone. If you have birds that don't require medication, then they can, you can get somebody to come in and change bowls, put food out and change the water, that kind of thing. But when it comes down to giving medication to birds, you need somebody who's trained in that. Romeo is a tough one. He takes his medication mixed with peanut butter on a stick, but there are certain caveats. Nobody could ring the doorbell before he gets his medication, or he'll go on to another planet, and it'll take you an hour to get him to take it. You can restrain him, but he will never trust you again. Um, so he may not take it right away. You have to take his food bowl out of his cage sometimes to get him to do that. Um, he'll get down in his nest box and he'll look at you. He's got to be in one of two to three, actually three different positions in order to give it to him. I mean, there's a whole bunch of rules. With Sugar, she needs to be petted twice, once on the head as you're walking by, once in between giving everybody else medicine. Otherwise, when you hand her the peanut butter stick, she looks at you like you just missed what you were supposed to do. Am I supposed to eat this? So the best bet is to train people. Now, if you've got somebody who can come in and change food bowls and that kind of thing, that's easy to train, especially if you don't have to reach your hand in the cage to change the bowl. They should be okay with that. You train them to watch where they put their fingers, because and make sure they're looking at the bird so the bird doesn't decide to come down and take a chunk out of them. But yeah, I'm working on it. I'm hoping that some of these other people who have birds might actually be interested in helping me in a situation like that. But right now, I don't see it. Um, Starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe I could talk to our vet and see if she knows anybody. I didn't think about that last time. Talk to her and see if she knows anybody who might be interested in helping in an emergency.
That's a good idea. So we've got some new chatters. We've got Natalie and James. So welcome you guys. Nice to have you. And I just thought of something else, Don. If you're on your own, if there was an emergency such as a fire or an evacuation for whatever reason, you don't have people around to pack your bags for you. So maybe you should have a go bag ready packed for emergencies.
Yeah, you should. That's important to have that. You need to have everything ready to go. I have all the cages ready to go in the van, so that's so that's really easy. One, two, three, they're in the van. Um, just have to put water and food in there for them. In an emergency, I can bring that along and fill that later. So, yep, you need to be prepared. And it's happened. We were involved in an evacuation. We had to move. We had to move out of there, and as there was a fire close, and we were living in California, so the fire state. Yep, you need to have, if you have like one or two birds, you need to have a little like pack with one bird's stuff in it and a pack with another bird's stuff in it. Gets a little more difficult when you got 12. Then you have food packs, toy packs, and stuff like that that can be thrown in the vehicle. I also have an adapter in there so I can put a HEPA filter inside the van in case we're dealing with smoke. So HEPA filters are not generally 12-volt DC, so you need an adapter that'll get it up to 110 volt, which is kind of funny because they're basically just a fan. That's all they are anyway. Whoops. What's going on here? Come on, phone. You're doing something weird here. Ah, stop pulling on that.
So we've got Giselle NY who joined us. Hello, Giselle. And she says, let me just read it. She says, people in rescue can be very resourceful within their network. So when she was stuck out of town during a fire evacuation, the dog rescue went in to get her dogs, cats, and birds, and another rescue went in and got her horses. So good for them. There's some wonderful people out there.
There are.
And sorry, I'm just wrestling this freaking baby right here. It's like she is so full of energy. Okay, and Natalie and James says we may have to move out of our home due to a landlord not helping maintenance on our property. We have slumlords. Yeah, that really sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
Unfortunately, these days, that's the norm. Um, I was in one of those situations. We started out with a pretty good guy, and then he died, and his son was okay. But when that wife took over, I've seen pictures of her. She's taken the money from whatever was left over, and she's going all around the world. She's traveling to Italy and traveling here and traveling there. Ugh. I always wondered about that woman, whether or not her husband died naturally or not. But that's too bad. But I know how it feels because I've been there. What are you doing up there? What are you doing? So you might use a checklist, make up a checklist, use an app for that, or you can write it on paper. But you need to have some kind of a list so you know what you need to do every day and check it off. I use OmniFocus for that, an app that will keep track of what you're doing during the day. You can set it up to remind you I have to do this at a certain time and that at a certain time. It's especially good when I have something that's not in the normal sequence. I have to be somewhere at a certain time or something. And good to take notes, journal it. You see something that doesn't look quite right on your bird, note it down because you might not remember the next day. They have something like wet nares in the morning, and you wonder if that's something going on the next day, or they're dry. So you check it the third day they're dry. You stop doing you take it off your checklist, and you just keep doing the basic observation of each bird after that. I wish I could say I did that with Cause. She's still on my checklist, and every day I weigh her in the morning, and every day I weigh her at night. She's been good for about a month now. But she's also on Onsior, so I have to make sure she doesn't have any kind of liver issues or anything from taking it. So best to keep checking that poop. So if you're going to make mash, there's time savers too. If you're going to make mash, you can prep it in batches. That's what I do. I'll make 6 to 7 days of it. Two of them I put in the refrigerator. The rest of them I put in the freezer. And then I defrost them in the microwave. The next day while I'm going out to give them their dry food, I defrost it. I do the same thing with beans. I have beans that they get. They like pinto beans and black beans. I have that mixed. They eat one or two. They don't eat that much. But when I make a batch, I do it in the pressure cooker and then I freeze that stuff up. Keep one out and freeze the others. So that's a big time saver. Um, Using a cart is a really will save you a lot of time. When you have to go in to clean, if you have a cart, it helps with the cleaning. If you have a cart, it can help you with cooking if you're doing cooking. I know most people don't cook for their birds, but if you do, I have a Rubbermaid cart somebody donated, and you talk about a time saver. What are you doing? Oh, you're getting under there? You know he's going to try to bite you if you go under there. You know about Cecil. He thinks you're an animal from another planet or something when you're under there. KK likes to go under the blanket. So, you know, the other thing with that is if you have stuff come in, I don't go out because, well, that's another thing I should have brought up. I don't go out to buy food. I don't go out to buy things. I order everything in. And I found that as far as with Instacart or Walmart, which is all we really have here. I mean, we only have Smith's and Walmart as far as I'm concerned. So it's cheaper to buy from them if you spend $100 a month or $100 a year and have them delivered to you than it is to drive out there and do it yourself. Now, an employer would see that when you're somebody who's never employed anyone, you wouldn't look at it as, look, I don't have to pay this, and this. So to have them go out, this is cheaper than driving there myself, that. But people don't see it that way. So, but it's the time saver is the big deal. If I had to go to the store to get food for them, going there, going into the vegetable section, all the way around the store, and then getting back here, we're talking I'm gone an hour and a half, hour and a half. I don't have that kind of time. So if I tip the driver for delivering food, if I tip them 10% and it was a $50 order, is it worth $5 to have the order delivered to me? Yes. Because if my time is not worth, if an hour and a half of my time is not worth $5, then what am I doing? $5 an hour is a ridiculous amount to pay yourself. So, this is essentially what I end up paying these people to deliver. I almost feel guilty for just tipping them 10%. Um, I don't go out and shop at the stores in town. I have everything delivered by Amazon or Walmart. I know I'm not all that happy about Walmart's business practices, but this is a small town. We have we have we have Smith's and Walmart. There's Albertsons, but their prices are about 50% above everybody else. I'm not kidding. It's ridiculous. So that's all we have. I mean, we do have two casinos, two bordellos, so we're a big town in that respect. But um, so ordering out, if you're a single person, can get you a lot more time. I mean, what do you have to do when they show up they put the food to the door, or they show up at your door? You give them a code, you take the stuff in, you put it in your refrigerator, so it costs you 5 minutes. If you go to get it yourself, it's going to cost you an hour and a half. Depends on how far you got to drive, too. My driving time makes it that much. So if you're not going to do it regularly, just realize that you can do it and hook yourself either into Walmart or Instacart and try it a couple of times so you know how to do it. And then if you are really feeling terrible someday, but you need to get groceries, and that's the way to go. Organization is another thing. The more organized you are, the faster things move. That's why I've got another shelf unit I'm putting up, because if I can get things organized, I don't have to go digging through boxes when I want to get them certain toys. So, or digging through a pile. So organize, organize.
Well, Don, there's been a donation from Jam and Jamie, who's donated $12. So thank you very much, Jam and Jamie. We appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I have a video for you if I can find it. They move things around again. There we go. Thank you, Jen and Jamie. Thank you so much. And another thing that's helpful is to come up with a script as to, actually a couple of scripts, how to teach someone to help in general, just basic help, how to teach someone how to really help when it comes down to like actually handling the bird and that kind of thing. Um, so it's good to have a script because if you're working from a script, you make sure you haven't forgot anything because that one thing you forgot, like, oh, don't put your finger in Pippa's cage, might might bite you on the finger at some point. So if you're doing this on your own, you need to acknowledge to yourself that it is not easy, that it's hard. It's not something that everybody can do. And you're not just a caregiver, you're their entire world. Cecil, Cecil. He likes to play. He likes to play with me. That's why he sits by me a lot of the time. But you are their entire world, so keep that in mind. And even with all the problems that they're there, there are so many bright moments that that you would never get unless you were working with the parrot that you have. Like the moment when when I took that collar off of that girl right there, because she couldn't stand having collars on her, and she'd had it on her for a long time here, and I gave her a much larger dose than the book says on haloperidol. And the first thing she did was start preening her feathers normally. Yeah, you did, didn't you? That was one bright day in my life. You give me a tail flash for that, huh? But there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of things that make you appreciate the fact that you're doing this hard work by yourself. So it gets you up at the same time every day. I wake up at 5:50 in the morning and go through my routine, and if I'm lucky, I drag myself back to bed by 11. So hi, Snowball. Hi, boy. I see you up there. I see you up there, little girl Lucy. I said hello to Snowball, so she flapped her wing at me. Like, don't forget me. It's definitely rewarding to do it, but there are tough moments. There are those moments that you wouldn't give up for the world, like the moment I got Chloe that new cage, the one that Cecil's in now, and she strutted on the top of that thing and made sounds like tubular bells. She never did it again, but she really loved that cage. And she liked to be out too, but I mean, she loved that cage was her cage. Little things like today, I was working with KK, and to get him to take his medicine it's fun. I have to wait till he's in the right position in his cage in the morning. Usually within the first hour, he'll get in. What'll usually happen is he wants another toy, so he'll get up there and start yelling at me. So I'll go over. Although this morning he wasn't doing that. This morning he was just sitting on a perch, and I petted him. He got up. He puts his foot out. So then I put my hand under it. He got up. He came out with me, and I put him on the cart that I have, this big Rubbermaid cart, and so usually he will try to get up on the handle of the cart because once he grips the way the handle is made, he can grip it where it's almost impossible to take him off. So he gets on the cart. Then I throw a towel over that part of the cart. There he is under there. Oh, there he is. Hi, baby. So I got the medicine in him, and I was petting him, and then I call it the KK taco. I throw a towel over him, a small towel, like a kitchen towel, and I say KK taco, and I put him in his cage. Well, there is a brush, a big brush that's in the cart, and he grabbed a hold of it. And I'm trying to carry him over to his cage, and he's holding onto this big brush. Those funny moments, they're worth living for. Aren't they, KK? So I think that I've covered most of it. If I haven't, maybe you can, if you've got any further questions, Eleanor, or anyone else.
We've got some comments from chatters. So Giselle says that's a great positive, Don. They give us purpose and keep us moving. So they sure do. And we have Jocelyn Triggle who joined us and says, hi ho, sorry I'm late. So great to see you, Jocelyn. You can always catch up once the recording goes up on YouTube. And some people have been having a discussion in the chat about preparedness. And there was a good comment from Giselle who says, I learned from a friend. She laminated a sheet with all her pets' names and their specifics, like medications and special feeding routines. I made one and included commands and my bird's words and phrases. So that's a really good idea. And
It is.
Rosebud has a similar thing. She's got a sheet with a photo of her pets and their names, the location of their meds and vet information. And there was a general reminder to keep it updated. So, yep, keep things updated because emergency details aren't any use if they're wrong. And Giselle also tells us that Caesar, her parrot, broke out of his cage and he walked on the glass cooktop and the lights flashed and beeped, which was very scary. So, yes, you can't trust these guys. They're little escape artists.
They are. Even Mander got out. He never showed any interest in getting out, and he got out and decided to chew the house.
And when there's only one of you to keep them corralled, then it's a losing battle, I think.
Yeah, it is.
I'm having trouble keeping
I,
this one corralled.
I
She's
think.
done a head first nosedive off the sofa. I had to grab her ankles.
Oh no.
I think she's tired. So, if there's any questions from any chatters before we go, then you can write your comments and I can read them to Don. But otherwise, we're coming up to time, so wow, 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 wow. My goodness.
Yeah, the hardest thing I think is not having any backup. And if you can get backup, that's the best thing. Even if it's just somebody who can come by in an emergency. But at this point, we don't have that yet. So um, we had it when we were in Fallbrook, but then when we had the flood, we got moved, and ended up out here. It's just really difficult to get connected out in this area. Everybody's kind of on their own thing out in this part of the neck of the woods. What are you doing? What are you doing? You want to talk to people, or you want to get petted? What do you want? What does Cecil want? Cecil wants to be petted. Does Cecil want to be petted? He does. Yeah, don't let anybody tell you that female umbrellas are more cuddly. Female umbrella, way up there on top. Male umbrella, right here with his head on me. And Snowball's cuddly too, but only when the other birds are not around. He doesn't like to cuddle when there's other birds around, but he will if these other birds weren't in here. He'd be right on my around my neck, cuddling me. Sugar's not cuddly. The Moluccans are not quite on the cuddly side, but they're sweet anyway. You don't have to be cuddly to be sweet. Which end have I got here? Oh, that's the tail. PK, what are you doing under there? Well, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it again. That's all I can say. So,
Well, we only need to look at these happy birdie faces and we know that you're doing a grand job, John.
yeah, I lost some along the way, though.
Yeah, but you know, that's life. They come and they go. Some taken before their time and some did a lot better than expected, so that's just the way it goes.
That's true. Cecil, what are you doing? He can fly, by the way. He just doesn't know it. Of course, Cecil flying is kind of a dangerous concept, but
It's a good job that he doesn't know how to, really, because he'd be a winged demon, I think, if he could fly.
we might find out someday. I'm gonna try to teach everyone, even Sugar. She tries to fly. I'm gonna try to teach him to fly. I got that long spot where from the storeroom all the way over to the laundry room is quite a long flight for him. So I'm going to start teaching him to make a long flight. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Don't forget we do have merchandise. You can find it on our link tree, and we have a lot of other links up there too. And we'll see you guys
Next time.
next Monday. Thank you,
Yeah.
Eleanor, for moderating, and thank you, Sunny, for the background music.
Yeah. She's taking her responsibility very seriously. And thank you everyone for coming. We appreciate that. We love our viewers.
And we will see you all. If anybody didn't notice the Basque language that was scrolling at the bottom, uh, I could put pretty much anything there and nobody would notice it, but I put in a whole bunch of Basque. So it is a real language. It isn't a joke, but if you were in the Pyrenees, there are about 60,000 people who could still speak that language. So we will see you guys later. Bye.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
The Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a non-profit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.